Welcome to the Doc Analyzes Anything, the show where psychology and science meet and we attempt to explain human behavior, any and every human behavior, including, and I really like this one, humming the Jaws theme each time you reach for your coffee.
This is so random. Each one that is brought up from Behaviormatic 5000 is such a niche thing. I want to know who it is that's doing this behavior that we are going to analyze.
It's the conglomeration of the internet and whatever word best follows the previous word, as we learned.
I'm just imagining the person that does this behavior is listening, and then this is brought up and like, oh my God, I have reason now.
I picture it as like sitting in the library and just doing it every time. Quietly.
I was picturing it in an office, like a cubicle, so the people next to you in the next cubicle are hearing it. This is very much just like it's accumulation of all human behavior on the internet is what AI is. And so someone may not even be doing this. It may just be taking a bunch of random shit and throwing it together. But
somebody's doing it.
There's like a guy behind a computer somewhere answering all of ChatGPT prompts. It's just like answering.
Just one guy. It's not computer learning at all.
I'm gonna be late.
Yeah, I have to say, now that I have kids, I do hum that sound quite a bit in different situations when I'm sneaking around the corner, about to tickle a small child or something like that. Only my own or those I know. So don't worry out there, people. I'm not just doing that randomly around stores or anything. But
that is a good and worthy clarification to have made.
Yes, I knew what it sounded like as soon as I said it. So
of all of the tunes though that could be randomly hummed, I think the likelihood of one being hummed, this one is by far more. What's the word? More
likely.
Jazzy.
Likely, yeah. Like name me another tune that is more known across America or the world. Let's put it.
I randomly find myself humming If I Only Had a Brain quite often for some reason.
I don't know that one. No, wait, isn't that?
Yeah.
You know, Steve, I wasn't born in the 30s like you, so I don't know that one.
I'm surprised you know what Jaws is. You were born like last week, so.
Oh, when's the last time y'all have seen Jaws? Before you guys get in a fight, when's the last time you guys saw Jaws?
Ooh, randomly on TV like 10 years ago, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably like 10 years ago.
Actually, me too. I thought I'd have a cooler response, but as I thought about it, like, no, it's probably been 10, 15 years.
Like, you literally watch it every week.
Yeah.
Sunday night, 8 p.m.
I remember it being a lot scarier than I anticipated it being when I last watched it.
The only thing, like, I think about the phrase, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes.
I hear that a lot more in my head than I do the actual theme song.
I'll say I would have probably watched the Mythbusters, Shark Week and Jaws themed show more than I've seen the movie itself.
You're a big Mythbusters fan. I've collected this about you.
I've always enjoyed Mythbusters, even though like the experiments were a little. The control wasn't necessarily there. You'd be in a true laboratory setting. You're blowing stuff up. You're testing out myths and debunking them. Like, what's not to love?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
All right.
Now today.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Steven Sparks.
Hello, Doctor.
We need some emotion out of you, Doc. This is very monotone. Are you trying to lull the class to sleep?
I am as emotional as I get right now. You can't see the tears in my eyes. Here with me always is my co-host, Kyle Sturry, and again with us is Dr. Bradley. I am pushing the tobacco on young children with my hat here, Clements. For those of you that are worried by the fact that there's just large letters tobacco written on his hat, for if you're watching on YouTube, it is Tobacco Road because he went golfing there, and he's proud of the fact he went golfing there. But it looks like he is pushing deadly chemicals on small children. So,
yeah, what the heck, Brad?
read
Yeah.
the whole picture. If I put my head low enough, it's only at a certain angle where it really looks like it's just tobacco, but for the most part, you can see it if you look closely. So don't, guys. I'm not pushing that kind of stuff on people. That's pretty rude.
Where is Tobacco Road
you can't.
North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
You're blurry enough that you can't read the road anyways, and it's in cursive. No one's picking up the road part. They're just seeing tobacco with a deer
block. That's fair. I guess if that's what people want to think about me as, at least I was memorable in one way.
At least we gave you the opportunity to clear the air, even though if we did it in a way that ripped on you. So there you go.
That's okay. Life will go on, and maybe I'll turn to a life of crime where I act like another person.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Look at that foreshadow.
I don't know if this was planned or not, but
it's like I studied this.
Yeah, except you just admitted that you have no idea what we're talking about today, except for what we just discussed. So we're going a little bit different direction today, a little bit, just for fun, see how it goes. Recently, during my nighttime video game escapades, I like to listen to true crime books, whatever. And I went through the complete works of Sherlock Holmes. And as I'm on my local library app trying to find the next book, I came across a book called The Devil in Sherlock Holmes by David Gran. And it is not about Sherlock Holmes. It's a collection of short stories. But one of the short stories was really interesting. And I thought it'd be fun to give you all the story, kind of analyze the character's behavior. It's a true story. And see how it goes. And if you all hate it, let us know and we'll never do it again. But if you like it, maybe we'll find other interesting things periodically and just have a little change of pace here. So
I'm here for it.
With that, since he's so well prepared, go ahead, Dr. Brad, take it away. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what this is all about? Tell us the story.
First I gotta have a
aliens. Let me just bum a smoke off someone really quick. No. This is about a young lad that really had some problems, and he turned to a life that would not be advised for most in this world. He started off small with his endeavors, which he gradually built.
It seems like you could start your own TV show where you talk to ghosts for people in the same way that you're giving us this synopsis right now. Like maybe there's a show for you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't get paid enough here, so I might have to move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, they're not going to pay you either.
What?
They're not going to pay. I said they're not going to pay you either.
People pay a lot of money for my personality.
Also, before we get started, just for fun mention, the episode I did with the First Degree talking about my experience with the Kalamazoo Uber killer just came out. So anybody's into true crime, check that out. That's pretty fun. And sounds like there might be an opportunity for me to go back and do some analysis, let their listeners write in and do some fun, quick analyses here and there. So we'll see if that comes out. I'll let you know if that happens too. But in the meantime, we'll get to the current story. Sorry, Kyle, you gonna say something?
No, I listened to most of the episode so far, and you carried yourself very well.
Good. I wasn't on camera, so I don't know how you knew how well I carried myself, but
I'm so proud of you, Steve.
They're giving us a shout out. I feel like we should be giving them a shout out too. All right, guys, let's keep it together. So everybody grab your popcorn, sit back, relax. Let's enjoy a little story time here. And hopefully, since he's not prepared, Brad will have something to interject here and there. We'll see. So like I said, the book is a collection of short stories. There's several there that are quite interesting, but the one that really stuck out to me the most was about a gentleman. And we're going to kind of tell the story from the same perspective as the author without stealing his intellectual property. But I'm not a storyteller, and so I figure why not let the person who is kind of guide us on this. So picture this. 2005.
That was more energy than anything else. That is the storytelling voice, Steve. Let's hear it.
I can't maintain it though. I'll forget halfway through, and then it'll just be up, down, weird.
All right. Continue on.
So 2005, in area in France, I do believe, West Pyrenees, boy shows up at a local government welfare office. They've been getting calls about this person, looking disheveled and not doing well in the streets. They found a room for him. He talked about how he was in a horrible car accident with his family. No one else survived. Put in a local shelter or boarding house for youth. Enrolled in a local school. Again, 15 years old. He was given special permission to wear a hat because he claimed he was burned in the car accident and the fire that resulted. And quickly, he became one of the most popular students. He was making friends with everybody. They talk about him doing the moonwalk. He liked to pull off some Michael Jackson moves quite a bit. Doing extremely well in school for especially math. It sounds like he was helping teach some of the other kids things they were struggling with. And one day, one of the administrators was watching television and saw a special on the Chameleon, or this great impersonator that had done this many times over many different countries, and was like, oh no, that looks like the new student we have. So they called the police. They were called in. They actually roughed them up a little bit, and it said the administrator was freaking out, like, oh no, what if this isn't this person? And now we're letting the police get out of hand here. But when they took his hat off, they found out he was balding. He actually was 30-year-old Frédéric. And again, I may not pronounce this well because I'm not from France. It's either Bourdin or Bourdin.
So a 30-year-old impersonating a 15-year-old and essentially living the life of a 15-year-old in a high school.
Correct.
One thing I have to ask, because there's also that movie, The Orphan, where it's a very similar thing that happens. What is it about these people that give them this young appearance? Or was he, from what you know, a quote unquote normal looking adult, but just did makeup and stuff to hide his age?
The only pictures I have seen were in 2015 or 2017 or something like that. And so obviously, picture, mugshot, that sort of thing at that time, he was not looking very young. He was, I think, born in the 70s, so he was quite a bit older at that point. Yeah, can you see that if you're watching YouTube there? But he was very good with, disguising himself, wearing makeup, changing his voice. They said, I think he admitted to creating over 500 identities across 15 countries using 5 different languages. And he said it wasn't always a good rouse, really. Sometimes it was, he thought he would have been easily caught had people been looking for a potential imposter. But because people just don't tend to be looking for those things, he was able to pass it off well enough. And we'll get into some more stories, or I guess one really longer story here in a moment. But in general, there were times where he played it off very well, and they didn't realize because he had a little bit younger features. He was a little bit younger looking. He was a smaller gentleman. But then there were other times where it was either pretty obvious and people either knew, but they were embarrassed or didn't, for one reason or another, didn't want to call out the potential, like this doesn't seem right. Or they just wanted to believe it badly enough that they accepted it, because he was always playing the part of an orphan or someone that was in dire need of love, attention, and some help. And people like to be charitable when they can, and when it doesn't hurt themselves too much. And so you never want to feel like, oh, this person really needs my help, and they might be ripping me off or screwing me over in some way as well. 500
times though, but that's his account of it.
Yeah, no, there's not a record of 500, but
yeah,
supposedly according to this book, it sounds like there is a record of at least 15 different countries in 5 different languages.
I have 2 different thoughts with this. One, going back to, I think it was in our true crime episode, talking about serial killers or just people that repeat offenders with their crimes. Do you think he's just now or would have it got to the point with him that he was just seeing what was the limit of his capabilities with being a quote unquote chameleon. So there's that thought, but then two, I want to know if after he was caught, how did this guy not get recruited by like a spec ops type thing for undercover work?
So there is a little bit of foreshadowing there, and we'll give it away just enough to and then jump back in later if we remember to, because we always tend to forget about the things we talked about earlier. But he was asked that, but basically, why don't you become an actor if you're so good at this?
Yeah.
And he said he doesn't want to act like another person. He wants to become another person. To him, it was more about, he said it was an art form, but he wanted to actually become that person and stay that person, at least for a period of time. It's not clear if he ever did it so long that he got bored with that and wanted to move on to a new person, or if it always resulted in him being found out one way or the other. But he did at one point in an interview say, like, he was actually on I think it was a French TV show that was kind of like the To Tell the Truth or whatever, where two people are lying and one's telling the truth. But this was, the revealing who he was and what he did sort of thing. And they actually gave him a job working backstage and doing things because they felt bad for him in the life he had lived and how whenever he was caught, he'd always say, "Oh, I'm just really looking for someone to care and for love," and that sort of thing.
Because did he ever actually do harm to a person?
We will get into that, and we'll let everybody else decide the level of harm that was done. For the most part, especially early on, it was all making up a new person. But then later on, there were some other instances where it's like, okay, maybe this is troubling. But they did say that there was never any instances of him being sexually inappropriate with like a younger person, because he was usually playing younger people. Although at one point it said he did play the role of a English judge and an Italian diplomat at different times. And so it was not always children, just usually teenagers. It didn't seem like he was ever stealing or really taking financial advantage of any individuals, although he was part of the welfare system in some of these homes getting assistance. But no, the way you are stating it, no, there isn't any clear like crime that he's using this as a cover for. But there are certainly crimes he was arrested for, and there were times where public sentiment was against him because of what he had done. So, for a lot of these, it was just like people were in awe, like, "Oh, well, this guy's intense, like this is cool or it's wild." And then some of the other instances, like, "Nope, everybody hates you because you did a not so great thing here." So.
Yeah, because this is a lot like the movie The Orphan, but then another real life account is what is it? Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, and so he talked about Catch Me If You Can in his interview, but this was actually, there are multiple movies based on this, and the bigger story we'll go over, there's one kind of based on that, except they're not all like true historical accounts. Like one of them, I think it was a Clint Eastwood movie that actually took place in the 1920s or something like that, rather than being in more recent times. But there are movies based on that, and so the one you're mentioning may even be loosely based on his existence. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Catch Me If You Can is not. That's a different person, but.
Yeah, because that's based, and that's what gave me the idea of how was he not recruited for something afterwards? Because Catch Me If You Can, the government did then recruit that guy to pretty much be like the security idea to catch people that are falsifying themselves.
There's a great Simpsons episode where Homer accidentally finds out that vaccines are nothing more than they whip people into like a frenzy of shopping right before the holidays, and he just makes it up. But then all the richest people in the world are like, "You uncovered our secret," and they like ship him away to an island somewhere. But then they move in a like replacement Homer who's got like a thick German accent. I don't know. That's all. That's all I got.
There's also a Futurama where Fry becomes his own grandfather.
That's true. Yes.
The likelihood of some of these things being true. No, I'm joking. I'm just messing with you.
But go over like some of or I don't know where you want to start, like with his upbringing or like some of the stories, because I'm thinking like, what are the reinforcers here? Like, is he trying to get money? Is he like really just looking for love and affection? Is it just the thrill? Like,
Yeah, let's get through the story and then we can kind of talk about those things. But I do think it's important to give some backstory, some information on his childhood, just because it paints a picture of when his first crime was, or I guess whether it's a crime or not, you could discuss. But the first time he impersonated a new character. I will say though, that time living in the youth home, going to that school, impersonating this child, and I guess he was an imposter. He was not impersonating a real person. He just created a new identity, and he had, I think it was an ID and a phone, and that was it. And so he had a fake identification, and so they couldn't figure out what to charge him with, and so all they charged him with was using a fake identity or fake ID, fake driver's license, what have you, and he got a suspended sentence. So he was not really imprisoned or didn't face any penalties for that one at all. And that 2005, that was actually his last known impersonation, and it's possible that he did it again other times, but that's the only one, the last one anybody knows about. So when he was born, I believe it was a small town, but in France, his mother was 18. Her family had very little money. They're barely surviving, working at a margarine factory. And his father has not necessarily been confirmed, although he often took the last name of who he was told was his father. But his father was another factory worker there who was married, and his mother did not realize he was married at the time. And so she never told him, kind of quit the job, went elsewhere, and tried to do this thing on her own at 18. And we're talking in the 1970s. This is back still in that time where, like, now society still tends to frown upon these sort of things, but it's not like it was back in those days.
Also, you mentioned margarine. This is a bit of foreshadowing because margarine often imposters itself as butter. I'll see myself out.
So, like I mentioned in previous episodes, I've been listening to a lot of the podcast Criminal, where they talk about strange crimes or things that are technically illegal. And there was a recent episode on margarine and how it's like illegal to sell in certain states because the dairy producers have gotten lawmakers on their side and made it this huge thing. And yes, supposedly for the environment, for your health, and for many reasons, it's much better. But it was all about getting the right lobbyists on your side and turning public knowledge or perception against margarine. It's all a farce. And we'll get right back on track, I promise. But
let's talk about margarine the rest of the time.
Yes.
No, we won't.
We won't. No, we will never be on topic again. One of the lawmakers at the time said, "Hey, give me a taste of this. I'll prove to you this stuff is trash." And when he got blind taste tested, he actually picked out margarine as the real butter. And like years later, his wife admitted, well, he was having health problems, so I had switched it out without him knowing.
That is that
margarine strikes again.
Do you guys know that skit from Family Guy?
Which one?
I don't know if it's Stewie or Brian. They switch out Peter's butter, or I can't believe it's not butter, with real butter. So Peter takes a bite of his toast with what he believes to be, I can't believe it's not butter. And he starts like gasping and looking all around. He's like, what? And then it like pans to him in like a psych hospital with a straitjacket on, and he's like freaking out. And then Lois says, you know, Doc, looking back, I think that might have actually been real butter. And then the doc's like, ma'am, your husband murdered 3 children.
Oh, no.
So
at least our cartoon examples only involve like incest and other weird things, not murdering of children, Brad. Come on, let's keep it together here.
Family Guy. Are you kidding me? Also, Kyle, with the joke that you made, your tremendous joke, you have usage of the soundboard, right?
Of the soundboard?
Yeah, you can use it, right?
I can. You can't hear it though. It's not being.
Yeah. No, he just wants you to add in an applause.
Oh.
He's saying.
Well, yeah. Did you add it in with that one?
Yeah. I mean, I'll do it right now. Oh, it's just the
That's
guy.
a late golf clap.
It was just the guy screaming. Actually, I did the wrong button. I'm not gonna try again. I don't know what all the buttons do.
Let's just not go down that road.
So
That's
anyway,
another.
so
Get it
anyway,
clap.
anyway,
Yeah.
Reaction.
about margarine.
So Frederick at around was with his mom till around the age of 2. Family sources suggest that she was more interested in kind of being out, partying, having a good time at 18, 19, 20 years old than being a mom. Eventually, social services put him in the care of his grandparents. Frederick reports that his mom had a serious need of attention, would pretend to be deathly ill just to have him go run for help. At one point, she even attempted suicide so he could run and save her. He interpreted this as her playing cruel tricks on him. But knowing what we know and the people we have worked with in the past, it sounds like she could have fit the diagnosis. And again, we are not diagnosticians. We don't diagnose. Somehow make me sound better saying that, Kyle. I don't know how you do those
I'll just
magic
put in
things, but
more
do
of
that.
more of the laugh track.
Yeah.
Over your voice.
Yeah, laugh is good. But she fits the mold of what we often see when someone receives a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, where a lot of times people will do catastrophic things and even sometimes result in ending their own life, not because they actually want to end their life, but because of the turmoil and excitement and really what we frame as behavior analysts, the attention behind it, even though it's not necessarily attention that in the way society thinks of it, it still fits that mold of it is the reaction from the community around you. And so we have worked with people who call 911 frequently for non-emergencies or have what are meant to be non-serious suicide attempts. But unfortunately, people in this situation do sometimes end up ending their life just because of the turmoil they're trying to create. So we don't know for sure, but seemingly this may have been that situation he grew up in at least the first couple of years of his life.
Yeah, there's always a strong desire for love and affection from others in an unhealthy way with BDP.
And sometimes not love and affection too. Like sometimes it really is, I just want to see the shock value. I want to see everybody else struggling because of the situation I have created, sort of thing. And it's not that they're sitting there necessarily thinking that to themselves, but they find it reinforcing and it increases the future frequency of that behavior, even though they are probably reporting it to others and even maybe saying to themselves, oh, this is horrible, poor me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we always want to be careful that when we talk about it being for attention, they're not sitting there like, oh, I'm going to do this to get attention for myself. It can be automatically reinforcing just because of what happens when you do these things.
Right.
So living with his grandparents at the age of 5, they moved to a new area. And we didn't mention it before, but his father is reported from being from Algeria. And so Northern Africa, the picture of him, he has a darker complexion than his classmates would have had in France, most likely. And he was ostracized both because of that and because his family being poor. He didn't look like the other kids. They didn't have the resources of the other kids.
Not as a pretend kid.
At the age of 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Actually, at the age of 5. And so it's reported he started conceiving stories about like his father being a spy or a secret agent, and that's why his dad wasn't around. He also began, and it wasn't clear if this was exactly the same time or a little bit later, but being claims about being sexually abused by a neighbor that nobody could find any evidence of. There's no reason necessarily to believe it, but you also never want to just assume someone is lying about that sort of thing either.
Right.
Started drawing pictures of himself, looking dead or drowning, hurting himself. And then towards the end of adolescence, he started stealing items as well. And all this accumulated with the effect of being put in a juvenile facility at the age of 12 because his family just didn't feel that they could handle him anymore. So you imagine the environmental stressors along with the history with mom, and it is no real clear description of his life with his grandparents, but assuming if you are living in that level of poverty, there's going to be other stressors that could be affecting their ability to really create that kind of loving, caring environment. You don't know. Maybe they were perfectly loving and caring, but it doesn't really go into that one way or the other.
So when were some of his first like crimes? Like at what age did he start impersonating, stealing identities?
So he was put in this one facility. Age of 16, he was moved to a new one, and shortly after, he escaped. Got out of there. We don't know for sure, but you can imagine back in those days, especially the kind of environment that you were in a youth home like that. And from the pictures painted from what we see today, it may not be much better today, but at least there's an emphasis on trying to make them better at a societal level. But runs away, and he's trying to survive in the streets of Paris. And so he creates his first identity where he pretends to be a British child. And he said he thought that if he was sent to England, everything would be fine. Everything would be better. Life is just better there. And so if I pretend to be British, they'll just send me back and I'll be fine. The problem is he didn't speak any English at the time. And so they saw through it pretty quickly. And he began bouncing between one home and another after that, and coming up with new identities every time he escaped, trying to not have to go back to these youth homes.
So it was first trying to stay out of the youth facility,
or at least trying to find one that was a good fit, that he felt loved and cared for, and wasn't a horrible situation. And so it wasn't quite clear. I mean, if you're a child, and maybe he didn't think this far through, but as an adult, you're a kid, even if you're British, you're still just going back to England and living in a youth home there. And so I don't know if he ever really thought of not having to be in this type of placement, or if he's just thinking things are always better over there, like their life is just better in England compared to here in France.
Not thinking about things such as this, how often would you say these types of behaviors start as a form of like self-preservation versus where they have like I don't even want to say like an evil origin, but just where they're doing it to save themselves? Because that's what this sounds like it was, or at least it started as.
So I don't think you could ever put a number on it. This is, first of all, quite rare.
Yeah.
But also, everybody's motivations are going to be different. Like, it seems much more likely that when you see an adult pretending to be another adult, it's usually tied to some sort of financial crime. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Usually, it's just something as simple as stealing someone's identity to use a credit card. Or my parents had someone set up a phone bill in their name one time when I was younger, and my wife not too long ago had someone buy like thousands of dollars worth of ludicrous tickets, but it was in LA, so we couldn't use them, so we just canceled them. And so
that was me. I'm sorry. I really wanted to go.
I saw Ludacris like up close at the like on Western Michigan University's campus in the theater one time. That was a great show, except I also had sinus infection at the time, and so I was miserable while also loving this concert. It was a real mixed bag there.
Did he wear the real big shoes?
No, because it was at the auditorium, it was not the production value was not quite the same as the big shows, but
gotcha. Big shows, big shoes.
Yeah, I'd say.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'd say that most of the time when an identity is stolen, it's financial, but it's also not usually on this scale. Like, you're not actually impersonating a whole new person and living their life. Mm-hmm. That you are just trying to take something for financial gain. And so I'd say it might be more likely for it to be this sort of preservation role if you're actually like completely taking on a new persona. And maybe there's other crimes involved in that too, but I'm always thinking like, all right, you're running from the law or running from, the mob or something. You have to go to a new city, become a new person. It is to try to survive, not because you're just doing it for fun or because you're going to get financial gain. But along the way, if crime is your main way of making money and surviving, then you probably will be doing that too, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So by the age of 18, he'd already played more than a dozen roles. And at times, it's not clear if it was really attention maintained, like we talked about, the same way his mother's was, or if he was truly trying to kill off his true identity. But at one point, he called the mayor of his hometown, claiming to be the police in Germany, saying they had just found his body. His family responded, being like, "Oh, this is just him being cruel to us. We're waiting for a casket to come that never came." But it very well could be that he wasn't even thinking about what it would do to his family. He was just trying to really become this new person and never have to go back to being who he was. And at that point, killing off your true identity might make sense because, hey, we have this person, we think this might be who it is. Oh, nope, that person's deceased. It can't be them, And so it's hard to know for sure.
I was not doing anything cool like that when I was 16. That's for sure.
I was, well, first of all, let's define cool, because for the family that probably wasn't cool, but
Well, yeah.
the horrible frowned upon things, frowned upon by society things I was doing at 16 to 18 we're not this inventive, at least.
I would replace the word cool with
You're just doing
inventive.
run-of-the-mill type
I wasn't
things.
as creative. Yeah.
So doing this all over the world, basically, multiple continents even. At one point, 1997, he gets caught up in Spain. And the judge is saying, listen, if you can't prove who you are right now, we're sending your fingerprints and photo to Interpol because we need to figure out who you are. And he knows he's been wanted by Interpol for impersonating people all over the world. And so he's freaking out. Like, what am I going to do? And he says, in the middle of the night, it comes to him, like, if I can get to the United States, no one's going to question this the same way, get out of Europe. So he calls the Center for Exploited and Missing Children. I may have said that backwards, missing and exploited children. And basically got someone on the phone and gave a roundabout description of himself to them just to see if they had any missing persons that he could line himself up with to give this judge to get out of this trouble. And the person on the other line of the phone says, we have this child, Nicholas Barclay, I think went missing at the age of 13, but would have been around 16 at this point. Disappeared from the San Antonio area in 1994. And so they faxed over a photo and sent next day mail, the full file. And he's in this like center, and he's intercepting all of this correspondence. Like he snuck in to use the phone. He's listening footsteps as he's like grabbing things off the fax machine. Fax comes through, and it's dark, hard to really see, but the photo looks enough like him. He thinks, okay, I can pull this off. He claims this is the first time actually impersonating another person rather than just creating it up and making up the identity from scratch. So he's like, oh, yeah, guess what? This is him. He's standing right next to me, pretending to be an officer. And the Center for Missing and Exploited Children calls the embassy, calls the FBI, and starts things in motion to try to see, is this really this kid? The next day, the photo comes through, the complexion's off, the hair color's off, the eye color's off. And he's like, this kid had, at 13, given himself a tattoo. And so now he's scrambling. He burns the new picture, bleaches his hair, comes up with a story that he was kidnapped and trafficked, and the traffickers put chemicals in his eyes to change the color. And then had another person in this center like use a needle and a pen to give himself this tattoo just to try to make it work. So
going to great lengths to make this happen.
And mostly just because he knows he's likely going to prison if he doesn't.
I'm such a bad liar. Like when I my kid's 13. It's like 12 or under eats free, and I'm like, he's 12, and I'm like shaking. There's no way I could do any of this.
I think I'm probably a great liar. Like, I could keep up the ruse no problem for somebody else. But as soon as, if I'm doing it myself, as soon as I felt the anxiety of like, oh, here's another hurdle, I'd be like, all right, I'm giving up. This is too much work. I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I could do the lying part. It's all the other effort that I'd just be like, no, just put me in prison. I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm giving up here.
Prison's good.
No, I don't think I do well in prison. I may never leave the house, but feeling like I can't leave the house creates way too much anxiety for me. So, Nicholas, the missing child's half sister, flies to Spain to meet him, and she sees him, and he's like, "Oh no, gig's up," and she immediately runs over and gives him a hug, like. And the family even said she was probably the easiest mark, but she wanted it so badly to be her little brother that she was going to overlook a lot just to be able to be there and hug her brother who was missing.
How many years had it been?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
And so
you'd know that if you studied this, Kyle.
You what?
I said you would know this if you would have studied it like me.
So basically her thought seemed to be, at least recalling later on, that he's been trafficked. I think there was even claims of like sex trafficking, abused, chemicals poured in the eyes, and it's been 3 years of this torture. He's going to look different. It's not going to be exactly the same. He's going to be a little weirded out by this interaction, and she just wanted it to be her brother and was so willing to accept it being him. Jeez. That she went in front of a judge, testified that it was him. He was like immediately issued a passport, and like the next day they're on their way back to San Antonio.
How old was the stepsister or half sister, whatever it was?
The half sister was in her 30s at the time, so she was married with her own kids. This really was I think he had a brother in his 20s, a half brother in his 20s, a half sister in her 30s, and then he was 13 at the time.
Okay.
So flies back. Everybody in the family rushes to hug him and greet him and everything at the airport, except his mom. Like, she kind of hangs back, and they thought about it later, like, this is kind of interesting, but okay. But before they even got in the car, she gave him a hug, was sitting there talking to him, and like seemed to be warming up to the situation. And it's important to note that mom had a rough time as well. There was a lot of drug use. His half sister said that she was probably the best functioning drug user that she'd ever seen, because she kept a job, kept food on the table, but was still frequently using heroin through most of their lives. And so at this point in the story, she had sobered up, but as we go through the story, it's, I think, helpful to at least recognize that home life may not have been that great for anybody involved back when he went missing in the first place. So at first he stayed with his half-sister's family. Things seemed going pretty well. But he started kind of getting stir crazy, the pressure and feeling so guilty about, doing this to this family started getting to him. At one point, the TV show Hard Copy heard about the story and hired a private investigator to get them involved so they could try to do an interview. The family said, no, you've just gone through all this. We don't want you to do the interview. But Frederick said later on that he liked the attention. He almost had he described it as psychological need for the attention. And so he wanted to do the interview. And during the interview, this private investigator starts noticing, like, all right, something's not right. It looks like his hair is bleached. Maybe he had the cameraman zoom in on the ears so he could compare those later. And after the show, even though he was no longer being hired, he started talking to specialists, like, all right, would chemicals really change eye color? And they say, no, there's no way that would happen. And I think he also talked to let's see. I guess I didn't write that down. He talked to another specialist about it was about the accent, the fact that it had been 3-4 weeks and he was still speaking with a French accent. He had not started to reemerge yet. And the specialist said it would take very little time being back in your natural environment for that accent to start returning. And so
interesting.
he goes to the family and says, listen, I don't think this is your kid. I just want you to be aware, like, be careful with this. And immediately his mom's like, how dare you? Don't talk about my son that way. Very standoffish, very upset. And he was uncomfortable enough that he's like, I don't know. It's not my place. I'm not being paid. But like something weird's going on here. What if this person is a terrorist? And let's admit, because of his complexion being a little bit darker, it may even been some racism going on there, like what's going on.
Yeah.
But he thought maybe a terrorist, and so he called the police and the FBI. Like, hey, this is just weird. Even though the FBI had cleared him as part of the original, like, bringing him back to this country. So Frederick starts falling apart, stole the family car, got arrested for speeding down the road. At one point, it's reported he started to mutilate his face, and almost like he couldn't handle being himself while he was portraying this poor missing child. Really kind of felt like he was claustrophobic, like the walls are closing in. And all the same time, this PI continues looking into things. So took a while to convince the FBI. They're working in tandem and end up with a good enough relationship that the PI is working simultaneously and sharing the information with the FBI. And the FBI agent finally says, all right, we're going to go over there, get some DNA, get some fingerprints, and figure out what's going on. At that point, Nicholas's mother was still so adamant that they said she just fell to the floor and refused to participate whatsoever in giving the DNA. They took it, sent it into Interpol, and around that time is when Frédéric finally admitted, all right, nope, this is who I really am. Frédéric Bourdin, and I've been portraying these different lives my whole life, basically.
Do you think the family maybe had an inkling that it wasn't him, but it was more comforting to just pretend not to know? Or do you think they legitimately thought it was him and that any testing was unnecessary?
So this is where we get into some speculation, not only about this instance, but also with the history of Nicholas and how this all came to be. And I can only kind of talk about how the book portrays it and what other articles have suggested. But Frédéric says, for sure, the rest of the family as a whole took him in, believed his story, and just loved him for being Nicholas. Like, there was no question whether or not they bought in. But he said his mother, he doesn't believe she ever had an idea that it was him. She's at one point supposedly got drunk and yelled, "You're not my son. Who are you? Why are you doing this?" But Fred, she says that never happened. But he reported that to having to occurred. And it's also interesting that the half brother, who was in a recovery home at the time when this all started, didn't come to the airport, didn't want to meet him, and when he did meet him, was very standoffish and not friendly and didn't embrace him, that sort of thing. So he is certain that both mom and half brother knew the entire time that it was not Nicholas, and he went so far to say that he thinks that they had something to do with Nicholas's disappearance, that the FBI started to look into it. They were investigating, interviewing, doing different things. Said Nicholas's mom went through 2 different polygraphs. The first one showed that she was being truthful, but she was under the influence of narcotics at the time. And then when she sobered up, she failed miserably. So it's just not exactly clear. But the half brother ended up overdosing and passing away during the investigation, and they never came up with enough information to say for sure, yep, the family had anything to do with this disappearance or knew that this was an imposter the entire time. And so it never went anywhere from there. But both the way the investigation went and how the author, during interviews with both Frédéric and the investigators, it seems to insinuate that everybody thinks there might have been an accident or something else happening with Nicholas, and that basically Frédéric being there was a way for them to cover up what happened, or they couldn't at least deny it was him because that might point out that they actually knew what happened.
So older brother could have had a part of this kid's disappearance, and all of a sudden some guy shows up and like, nope, I'm him, and he's like, I know you're not him. However, this does help me out because it's my alibi at this point.
Yeah, so it said the day that the boy disappeared, he called his brother for a ride. His brother never like said, nope, I'm not doing that, and then he never made it home. And so it suggested that maybe this guilt was just because the brother didn't help him out and he never came back. But because there was a lot of drug use and abuse going on, and it was a very volatile home, there's also the suggestion that maybe some sort of interaction or accident occurred, and then brother, with the knowledge of mom, maybe tried to hide it so he didn't get in trouble or mom didn't get in trouble. They don't go into enough details to suggest what they actually think happened.
Yeah.
Just that based on their behavior, the way they acted and what was going on, they believe that they know more about this than that they will admit to.
It's funny that the chameleon comes off as the kind of like, okay, you guys just, I'll leave you all alone. You guys got your own mess to deal with here. Like he kind of comes off as the guy who makes the most sense.
And so like this again gets into, did he hurt anybody? And so very much so, he really hurt the family, but he wasn't stealing from anybody. He doesn't physically hurt anybody. It is just, he gave these people false hope, basically caused them to love him for a period of time. And then when they found out the truth, they were devastated. And so,
how long did he run that story for?
It was a matter of months. I can't remember. So the first interview where the private investigator noticed something was up was, I think, 3 weeks or 4 weeks in. And then several months of investigating later is when this all kind of crashed down on him. So in 1998, he was sentenced to 6 years. And then when he was released, was deported back to France.
And
there's not a lot of information.
Now?
Well, there's not a lot of information on how many more people he impersonated or created. There was at least one other instance, supposedly, where he actually impersonated another person again after this. But
some
the last time
never learn, man.
Well, the last time this was known to have actually occurred was when that first story we started with, 2005, with the school, that when they found him out. In 2007, he was married and had a child, and seemingly that is when things stopped.
Kids will do that to you.
Well, and if we run with the premise that he really was just looking for love and affection, then now he has it. And so maybe that was a good part of his motivation. He posted on social media, although it's never been confirmed, that relationship ended in 2017, but he was still living with his children. But that kind of, I think, brought people some speculation. Okay, is he going to pick this up again now that this relationship is over?
Yeah.
But there's not even evidence for sure if the relationship was over or not. It may have just been him, again, looking for reaction and attention by putting that online. Because his family even suggested, like, you can't trust anything he says, even something as mundane as talking about the end of a relationship. So I guess the real question then becomes, like, was it just this love and affection he's going to? Because every time he was caught, he admitted who he was. He didn't try to hide it, and said he was just doing it because he wanted love and a family. But he also at other times talked about his criminality being an art. He wanted to take it to an artful place, and it was almost like the process was special to him. And also when he would reveal who his true identity was, they said it often seemed like he enjoyed that part as well. And, to me, nothing sounds more stressful than being caught in a ruse, being caught up having to admit what you're doing. And like, I wouldn't have any reason to do this in the first place, but I would never be able to do it just because of the anxiety of what if I got caught, not because of the lying involved in playing that new part,
Well, and I like see stories of people who are like, I never had a degree, but I needed one for the job, so I faked it, and now I'm a CEO. Like they never asked questions, they never asked to see my degree, and I attained something through that ruse. If love and affection was the reinforcer, the purported reinforcer, and it stopped after he had his own family, I mean that's a clue that could have been like the primary, the main reinforcement. But like, yeah, I'm sure there's like little contingencies that like, elements of excitement and things like that too that come along the way as you interact with that context.
So in our field, we'll give you a little more insight. We have this thing called multiply controlled behavior, where basically you have the original reinforcing a reinforcer for the target behavior. In this case, probably was just looking for some level of comfort, looking for a place he'd be treated well, care, love, family, what have you. Especially with that first one, where he's really just trying to get to England, where he thought life would just be better in general. But it can change and take on other functions over time. And so if you are getting attention for a target behavior, and attention is reinforcing, which it is for almost all people, that's how we learn almost all of our skills in life, is through the attention from our caregivers. And then that becomes reinforcing its own right through processes that we can explain some other time. But if you're getting attention for a problematic behavior, it is likely to play a role and reinforce and maintain that behavior, even if the original reinforcer, such as wanting, love and affection, is no longer there. And so it very likely could be, I mean, he did this for many, many years, where at first it's what he was looking for, but the feeling of like that it was pride of look at my art, look at how well I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the attention from getting caught. I mean, he went on TV, he was kind of a celebrity. People really liked him, except that this last one, people turned against him, or not the last one, but the one in Texas, people turned against him because of what he did to that family. But even his wife was someone that like had seen his story and reached out to him because she had been through a troubled childhood as well, and felt they would be a good match. And so, and understand each other. And so I think very much so, like the attention and then that automatic reinforcement of, look how good I am at this. This is, I'm an artist, and I am this chameleon. I am bigger than life. And he was known as the Chameleon. Like, who gets a world-renowned nickname like that? You know what I mean?
Not
Like,
me.
you could probably even talk yourself into believing that you are bigger than yourself. Your story is bigger than your life, sort of thing.
Right.
He even told the author during the first interview, like, I don't want you to embellish this. This story is good enough on its own. We don't need to, make it sound bigger than it is. So, hey, Brad, we kept talking without you just in case. So everybody's going to see you disappear and come back, and we'll just know that where you are in France, they're hanging out with the Chameleon. It's the coverage just isn't as good there. So
this did go
I
full
just
circle.
wanted to come back and with my intro, I want to say, ta-da!
Now that was a little too excited. I know you talk about me never having any emotion, but that was a little much there.
Yeah, tone it down, Brad. Maybe lay off the cigarettes.
The tobacco. We didn't say what kind of tobacco it is.
True. Lay off the tobacco.
Just fresh green leaves out of the field he's chewing on over there. Yeah, we were just kind of talking, like, it seems like it started off being the love and affection, but really became more about the attention and the lore, and the fact that once the story came out and he received this nickname, this persona of the Chameleon, that like you almost have to live up to that, and it becomes more of an art of becoming that person and moving forward with that. But I do think we should reiterate that once he had a family, he went away from that, and whether that's because he didn't want to lose that contact with them by going to prison or having to become someone else, or if it was because he got that original reinforcer of that love and affection, it is hard to know for sure, why that ended it the way it did. Or maybe he just always felt that it was easier and better to play children, and he got to an age where he couldn't do it. There's a lot of variables there that could be playing a role.
Father time.
But it seems likely that he finally got what he was looking for, and at least that's the happy story ending. You know what I mean? We can just assume, there it is, the magic shooting star arch over the castle, everything's all right, the end sort of feeling.
Yeah, I like the storybook ending there. Do you think he's training his kids how to deceive people now?
I don't know if you could help but do it to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would want this life for them necessarily. But
Yeah.
how do you not pick up some of these skills of deception, at least in a functional way that will help you through life? Like, hopefully you're not ripping people off.
Yeah.
But imagine if you were...
He's teaching them in a way, it's like, hey, watch out for this, so I'm going to teach you what it's like.
There very well could be that, but also imagine, like, all right, you're entering the business world, and what if you can read people, take on the persona, and get ahead that much easier because of it?
Yeah.
Some people would say it's inauthentic and you should be yourself, and others would be like, hey, if that gets me ahead, it gets me ahead, and then once I'm the top of the ladder, I can be myself, and so who knows how he's portraying this. And it sounds like because he had such a poor family life that maybe he hasn't thought about, being it's not as much about being a positive role model and helping teach things in a way that are functionally and socially appropriate, as much as like, I'm just happy that I'm where I am now in life, and so you can't say for sure. But if it were me, I would struggle not to give my children a leg up by a way to use the skills, but also hopefully doing so in a way that wouldn't get them into trouble or be detrimental to society,
Yeah.
All right. Well, Frederick, if you're listening, stay out of trouble, big guy.
Yeah.
The world's on to you.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'd say, like, I'm sure he's not going to hear this, but you never know because of the attention component. He may be one of those people that looks up anytime anybody puts anything out there because it's so reinforcing to go back to it. So you never know.
Get him as a guest host, but we won't be able to say that he is. We have to make up a story for how we know this guy, so he can continue his chameleon nature.
That's the big catch.
We'd have him come in pretending to be you.
Yeah, that's the catch. Is that he's been when it just went blank and we lost you for a minute. That was him like kidnapping you and taking over. You're Frederick. It all went.
Who knows? Who knows?
At least if we could have had. At least if we could have had him on, he could have made sure I was pronouncing his last name correctly. So
that's true.
That would have been nice.
And I would be exposing myself.
He's a great fact checker there.
Please do not expose yourself. This is on YouTube.
As soon as I said it, I was like, all right, poor choice of words right there.
I'll do the man screaming again.
All right, for those of you listening, not on YouTube, I, in fact, did not expose myself.
Well,
all right, well.
We really did it, guys.
Yeah, well, let's end this on the note we always end it on here. Just remember to be out there looking for the positive. Enjoy life. You never know what's coming next, and you never know when the Dr. Brads of your life are really an imposter coming in to steal your love and affection. So stay vigilant out there, but let's look towards the brighter side of things.